Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Introduction to Paralegalism, Perspectives, Problems, and Skills, 9th edition. Chapter 3, narrated by Omar Mohsen Ibrahim Fouad. On-the-job realities. The legal environment. Chapter Introduction. Chapter Objectives. After completing this chapter, you should be able to describe some of the issues a paralegal can encounter on the job, including communication issues, creative effective techniques for handling office politics, identify the major components of a paralegal performance review, compare and contrast some of the characteristics that make good attorney, advocates, and attorney managers. Describe the characteristics of an assertive paralegal. Assess the value of a diary or journal and a career development file. Summarize the techniques of effective supervision. Recognize the importance of respecting the relationship between secretaries and paralegals. Distinguish between quid pro quo and hostile environment sexual harassment. Explain why office systems are important to a cohesive work environment and learning to address and correct ineffective systems. What if the new assignment you've been given by one of the partner attorneys in the law firm involves performing an extensive background check on some witnesses in a racial discrimination and harassment case? You enter the first witness's name on Google and a litany of sites pop up, including Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X, formerly known as Twitter. When you access TikTok, you see that the witness is dressed up in a costume with black face. It looks like the video is from a few years back, but there is no mistaking that this is the witness. You immediately send the partner an email with your discovery and wait for a response. Days later, you still don't have a response and decide to approach the partner's secretary. The secretary immediately responds that Chris doesn't use email, no technology at all. That's why I'm always copied on all his emails. You mask your surprise and decide to tell the secretary about your discovery and are instructed to forward the email. Now, you realize that you must reassess your approach to communicating with that partner. How can someone not use email in today's business world? The difference in the generations. Learning how to adjust and adapt to various work situations. Especially when attorneys and work colleagues have different skill levels, is important. As improbable as it may seem, everyone in a law office environment has different skills, some more advanced than others. You will find that many embrace technology while others see it as the bane of our existence and reject it entirely. No computer, no smartphone, no technology of any kind. In their minds, that is what a secretary is for. As this chapter will present, you will be faced with many work situations that seem insurmountable, but learning how to address and manage them is critical to your success as a paralegal. Let's tackle the issues in the workplace. 3-1. The ideal: how to find the best job satisfaction. The practice of law is a high-performance arena of challenges, frustrations, and triumphs. It is not for the faint of heart. Unfortunately, being successful does not always depend on being good at what you do, but also requires the ability to work with others regardless of how difficult they may be. The good news is that with a little patience and a lot of emotional intelligence, career success is possible. In this chapter, we cover emotional intelligence and related themes by exploring some of the major techniques assertive paralegals use to survive and thrive in the practice of law. Before doing so, we pause to examine the ideal. What is a perfect paralegal job? Perhaps it is impossible to describe perfection in its fullest sense, but if we made the attempt, what would the description contain? Exhibit 3-1 presents such an attempt. It identifies 40 factors of an ideal paralegal job environment. The factors are not of equal importance, and some of them overlap, nor would every paralegal agree that all 40 are needed. In general, however, these are the factors not necessarily listed in order of priority that must be considered according to many working paralegals. Exhibit 3-1. 40 factors that can affect paralegal job satisfaction. 1. Your pay and fringe benefits are satisfactory. 2. You are respected and treated as a professional. 3. Attorneys in the office know how to delegate tasks and work with paralegals. 4. Before you are given a new assignment, your supervisor determines how it fits with other assignments still on your agenda. You are never uncertain about what has priority. 5. You are not in competition with new attorneys or other paralegals for billable hours. 6. Secretaries and administrative assistants, office clerks, and other support personnel understand and accept your role. The office functions as a team. 7. You share the same values as the people with whom you work. 8. The office has high standards of competence. 9. The office follows high standards of ethical and moral responsibility. The office can be aggressive in the practice of law, but its guiding principle is not. To win at all costs, you are encouraged to raise ethical questions about something the office has done. 10. There are clear lines of authority in the office. You know whom to turn to for help if your immediate supervisor is not available. 11. Your work is adequately supervised. 12. The work you do is challenging. 13. Your paralegal skills are being used by the office. You are delegated meaningful tasks along with your share of mundane work. 14. There is a reasonable variety in the tasks you are asked to perform. 15. Demands on you to perform clerical tasks are reasonable. You perform them as needed, particularly when deadlines must be met or when the office is short-staffed, for example. 16. Overtime requirements of the job are reasonable. Overtime does not substantially interfere with maintaining a work-life balance. 17. There is no undue pressure to meet billable goal hours. 17. There is no undue pressure to meet billable hour goals or quotas. 18. You look forward to coming to work every day. 19. You feel you are making a contribution to the office. 20. Your contribution to the office is acknowledged. 21. Your performance is regularly and constructively evaluated according to clearly articulated standards. 22. In addition to being a business, the office demonstrates a commitment to the community through pro bono work and other volunteer activities that benefit society. 23. There is no sexism, racism, ageism, homophobia, or other inappropriate discrimination in the office. 24. You are given financial support and time off to participate in activities of paralegal associations such as continuing legal education, CLE. 25. Your work area and office equipment are satisfactory. 26. You have adequate access to clerical assistance. 27. Your privacy is respected. 28. When you need help in performing a task, you know what resources are available. 29. You are encouraged to develop new skills. 30. In addition to office training for paralegals, you participate in training for new attorneys, administrative staff, and others when the training is relevant to your job. 31. You have some client contact. 32. You participate in major social events in the office. They are not always attorney-only events. 33. Office politics are manageable. 34. There is good flow of communication in the office. The grapevine is not the sole source of information. 35. You attend regularly scheduled and well-run staff meetings. 36. People in the office know how to listen. 37. You have good rapport with other paralegals in the office. 38. Office policies and procedures are clearly spelled out. 39. The office has a clear ladder for paralegals. 40. You can see or are told about, for example, the end product of your work, even though you may not work on every stage of a case or legal matter. We move now to the reality of paralegal employment. The 40 factors obviously do not exist in every paralegal job. While most paralegals are satisfied with the career they have chosen, challenges can arise in any occupation. Our focus in this chapter will be to identify some of these challenges and to suggest resolution strategies. Many of the problems we will be discussing are not peculiar to paralegalism. Sexism, for example, and the hassles of worker coexistence are not unique to the law office. Indeed, this chapter is probably as much about human nature as it is about the paralegal career. Some of the discussion will be directed at attorneys and what they must do to solve a particular employment concern. Yet, a major theme of this chapter is what the paralegal can do to overcome difficulties, even those that appear to be beyond the control of the paralegal. According to Beth King, president of the Oregon Paralegal Association, job satisfaction is one of life's most important assets. As such, it is something we should cherish and cultivate. We may blame a lack of job satisfaction on our employer or those with whom we work. In truth, satisfaction with our jobs lies within our control. 3-2. Communication. Don't think it, communicate it. A busy law office is often a charged environment, particularly if the office is engaged in litigation or has a large caseload with a relatively high turnover. It is difficult to explain to outsiders The pressures of a law firm environment. Client demands seem never-ending. Equipment failures send staff into a frenzy. Messengers run throughout the city like maniacs. Receptionists cannot find various personnel because they did not check in or out. The accounting department is complaining about time and billing, and priorities change every minute. When large products or huge sums of money are at stake, careers are on the line. Attorneys can, at times, have unrealistic expectations of those around them. In this atmosphere, communication can occasionally break down. A while back, there was a book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Regardless of whether you have read the book or are familiar with it, the title suggests the inherent differences among us, regardless of our age, sex, or beliefs. The work environment will be no different. Poor communication between staff and managers is an inherent problem in the work environment, and the legal profession is no different. The problem may not be as bad as George Bernard Shaw might suggest. The single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. But when a breakdown occurs, it can be a trying experience. Here's an example. A senior partner thinks he is told his paralegal to take care of an important filing. In actuality, all he told the paralegal to do was to draft the necessary document to make the filing. The paralegal drafts the documents and puts them in the senior partner's inbox for his review. The filing deadline is missed. The senior partner blames his paralegal. The worst part of this scenario is that the paralegal is never told what happened, yet is being blamed. Perhaps the senior partner wishes to avoid a confrontation. Perhaps the attorney fears having to take responsibility for the miscommunication and the repercussions. In the end, it is often the paralegal that is taken to task for something that is not even their fault. The need, of course, is to prevent miscommunication. Be aware of the standard factors that contribute to communication problems: distractions, time pressures, work overload, embarrassment over asking for clarification, personality conflicts, equipment breakdown, physical impairment, hearing difficulty, defective eyeglasses, for example. You can take specific steps to help avoid miscommunication. Examples: immediately after receiving an assignment, briefly repeat back to the supervisor your understanding of what you have been asked to do. Find out what priority each of your tasks should have. Ask your supervisor to estimate how many hours they think the assignment should take to complete. For lengthy or complex assignments, send your supervisor a brief note or email message in which you confirm what you have been asked to do and when it is due. Keep a personal work in progress, WIP, report in which you record your current tasks. Later in this chapter, we will examine the related topic of job diaries or journals. Quick tip: communicate, always. Communicate with your attorney and other staff often. Don't think it, say something. One of the worst feelings in the world is knowing that if something was said or communicated, a problematic situation would have been averted. So communicate. The danger of miscommunication in a busy law office can be quite high. If, however, you are constantly aware of the danger, you'll be in a better position to avoid a communication breakdown. It is a little like crossing the street. The busier the intersection, the more caution that is needed to avoid an accident. Many law offices are very busy intersections. To illustrate the dynamics of the attorney and paralegal work environment, the case of D'Angelo v. Vanguard Group, Incorporated, 2023, U.S. District, Lexus 11210, 2023, WL 361788, EDPA 2023, shows what happened when communications break down and attempts are made to hold a paralegal responsible for attorney's missteps. Order of the Court, a case study, D'Angelo v. Vanguard Group, INC. U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, 2023, U.S. District, Lexus 11210, 2023, WL 361788, EDPA 2023. The factors of D'Angelo v. Vanguard Group are relatively straightforward. An attorney missed a deadline to file an appeal, and he blamed his paralegals and Google Calendar for the error. The attorney's firm was hired to represent John D'Angelo in an age discrimination case where he was fired from his employment with Vanguard. A complaint was filed. Discovery ensued. Vanguard filed a motion for summary judgment. The district court granted the motion. D'Angelo wanted to appeal and had 30 days to file an appeal. His attorney, Seth Carson, filed the appeal 1 day late. Carson filed a motion with the district court for an extension of time to file the appeal late, citing that a computer glitch in his Google Calendar provided the wrong filing date for the appeal, and that his new paralegals changed the date on the calendar for some unknown reasons. Carson stated that because of these issues, he was entitled to a finding of excusable delay and thus a granting of his extension to file the appeal. The court had an evidentiary hearing where it found 64 findings of fact, ultimately leading to the conclusion that Carson was not entitled to an extension to file the appeal. The court reviewed the law and found that Carson's excuses were not credible, and blaming his paralegals for the misfiled appeal was not going to be accepted by the court. In citing its own case law, the court opined that reasons for the delay are important, and Carson's reasons did not comport with the law. The court stated, Attorney Carson relied on new paralegals he failed to properly supervise, attributed at least some of the disconnect here to his busy caseload, cannot explain how he knew the latest appeal date of December 12th, but yet filed the appeal a day late only after paralegal William brought the date to his attention and shifted some of the blame to paralegal Juanita. Based on this, the district court found that there was no excusable neglect and denied the motion for the extension of time. Discussion questions. Locate a copy of D'Angelo v. Vanguard Group and read it. In the findings of fact, what facts did Carson state were attributable to his paralegal's missteps? Why did the court not find Attorney Carson credible? What factors does a court take into account in analyzing excusable neglect? Should the paralegals have taken any action in documenting the interactions with the attorney? If so, what would those steps entail? What are the lessons learned from the D'Angelo case? Three The multi-generational office. There is great diversity in the workforce, from cultural to age difference. Diversity in the workplace is a reality that all of us face and adapt to. At one time, tension on the job, such as someone's resistance to change, was attributed to someone being old-fashioned or stuck in the past. Today, social scientists have tried to articulate more precise differences among workers that can count. Today, social scientists have tried to articulate more precise differences among workers that can account for what works and what doesn't on the job. In many relatively large law offices, multiple generations are working side by side. Traditionalists, or what some call the silent generation, baby boomers, Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z, Gen Alpha, are currently too young to be working in a law office. One way to head off miscommunication is to understand this diversity. Many generations working together in the same work environment present new workforce dynamics and challenges that must be overcome and understood. With more and more baby boomers either retiring or nearing retirement, new generations will transform the work environment in the years to come. Let's return to our beginning facts about our paralegal whose supervising attorney does not use email. It clearly is a generational issue, but one that the paralegal had to address. She had to assess how to work with someone who was not technology savvy and relied heavily on his legal secretary and administrative assistant. The lesson that the paralegal had to learn was that she had to adapt to someone's skill levels and adjust how she interacted with her supervising attorney. Even though it was most likely going to be a challenge, the paralegal will have to navigate that work environment to assess how to be successful in it. Quick tip: regardless of one's age or age differences, everyone is unique. Treat everyone as an individual and learn the likes and dislikes of those with whom you work. No two people are the same, no matter what generation they are from. 3-4 Managing expectations of the job. To some extent, on-the-job problems are generated by surprise. I never thought the job would be like this. Unrealistic expectations, therefore, can be a source of frustration, as Eric Bluell discovered when he began his first paralegal job. Many of the challenges I faced were very unexpected. How do you fix a copy machine when no one is around? How do you serve a subpoena when the guy is running away from you? What do you do when your boss gives you an assignment and you have no idea where to start? Another example of surprise concerns legal research. Most paralegal programs spend a good deal of time teaching students to do legal research. In many law offices, however, paralegals do not do extensive legal research. As indicated in Chapter 1, research courses are important in your curriculum because of the understanding they give you about the legal system, legal process, and the language of the law. Although you may eventually be given some research assignments, do not enter your first paralegal job expecting to spend a great deal of time in a brick and mortar or online library doing legal research. One of the objectives of this book is to provide you with information that will help prevent surprise. You need a candid account of what you might find. Chapter 2, for example, outlined steps on doing background investigation, due diligence, on a potential employer before you accept a job, such as talking with paralegals who have worked or who will still work at the office and finding out what is said about that employer on the internet, particularly in candid comments available on social media. Following these steps, whenever possible, should give you a more accurate picture of what lies ahead if you take the job. If you live in a seller's market where there are more applicants than jobs, you may be so anxious to obtain a job that you will overlook its potential negative aspects. This is unfortunate. It is essential that you walk into a job or any new situation with open eyes. Not only will accurate information help reduce frustration, but also the information will be the foundation for corrective steps you can begin taking as soon as possible. You need a lot of information. In the best of all worlds, you would have information relevant to many of the factors listed in Exhibit 3-1 that affect potential job satisfaction. Of course, there are limitations on what you can learn in advance of taking a job. Furthermore, even the information you receive can be no more than a guide to your own prediction of how these factors might apply to you as an individual once you are on the job. This should not deter you, however, from going after whatever information is available about the paralegal field in your area and about particular prospective employers. Again, the background research discussed in Chapter 2 should help you obtain such information. Whether the information you are able to gather is extensive or minimal, the healthiest attitude is to expect the unexpected. Be prepared for surprises about the different kinds of personalities in the office, what supervisors think you are capable of doing, the level and quantity of assignments you are given, how secretaries and other paralegals in the office respond to you, who in the office will become the major influences on your growth and success as a paralegal, etc. This is not to say that everything you encounter will be a surprise, but having an appreciation of the realities of the work environment will assist in creating a realistic perspective. In short, be mindful of your preconceptions about what is going to happen. Just be aware that in any workplace situations and people are fluid.
3-5. The environment of a law office. When you walk into a law office, your first impression is likely to be that the office is very formal and organized. The people here are set in their ways. These impressions can be very misleading. Most law offices are dynamic, always changing, adapting, and moving. New workers are added, established workers leave, new clients come in, old clients are lost, new computer hardware and software are installed, new ways of doing things are developed, personality conflicts arise, numerous factors interact to produce an office that is in constant transition. On the surface, the office may appear to be a model of stability, but underneath all the layers of order and performance, permanence, there is a live office that is in motion. The consequences of this reality for the paralegal are twofold. Do not be deceived by appearances. Recognize your own responsibility and ability to help shape the environment in which you are working. Assume that after being on the job for a while, you become dissatisfied with an office procedure or with billable hour expectations. Avoid becoming defeatist. Look for ways to bring about change. To solve the problem, suggest an alternative that others are likely to accept because it is cost-effective and non-threatening to their priorities. If you receive no response, suggest another alternative. Don't give up. As long as you are competent in performing your work, your supervisors will listen to you. Maybe not immediately. Your first suggestion may not be accepted. It may take 6 months and 5 more suggestions before you see improvement. Change usually does not occur within the timetable of the person seeking the change. If you are the type of person who wants every possible change made in every area in need of change, and you want all the changes made now, you may not have the temperament needed to survive and thrive in a busy law office. Change is possible, and you can play a role in creating it as long as you are competent, patient, and creative enough to keep looking for ways to try to bring it about. Think about the COVID-19 pandemic the world experienced in 2020. Everyone had to adapt to what we learned was a new normal. We had to learn how to work remotely, conduct discovery such as depositions remotely, proceed with hearings and trials virtually, wear face coverings when necessary, forego being with family, and communicate virtually, and all the other changes the pandemic brought. The point is that we all adapted to our new environments, whether we liked it or not. Change was possible, and it occurred in many instances because it had to. When you are faced with challenges in your job environment and want to bring about change that seems insurmountable. Think about all the changes we had to face in 2020 and know that with time, change occurs and is possible. Just stay focused and persevere. 3-6 Managing and minimizing office politics. Office politics is the interaction among coworkers who do not always have the same goals, powers, opinions, expectations, abilities, or timetables for performing the work of the office. Because tensions can arise out of this interaction, office politics often has a negative reputation. Everyone dislikes it. Most of us want to work where office politics does not exist. If this is not possible, our instinct is to blame others. We do what is right. Others play politics. These attitudes are illusions and interfere with your chances of bringing about change. Unfortunately, no matter the size of your work environment, there usually is some form of office politics, even just from a hierarchical perspective. It can generate from something such as length of time in the office. Those who have been there longer believe that they have superior rights over a newcomer. Thus, whenever two people work together, politics can evolve. When 50 people work together, politics can be overly or subtly be part of the day. Often, the people you work with seem like your second family. And as with family, disagreements, squabbles, and jealousies exist. As much as we would like, it is not always possible to completely avoid confrontations or office politics. People often disagree about minor and major matters. As a result, conscious or unconscious negotiation becomes the mechanism by which things get done. Bargaining takes place all the time. There is no alternative to this process. Learning how to manage office dynamics, processes, and politics is an important concept to understand and master. Some of us are better at managing it than others. But be aware that office politics exists and that as a paralegal, you will be exposed to and must learn how to effectively deal with it so they don't get in the way of performing and excelling at your job. If there is harmony in an office, it is because people are engaged in effective office politics. People are trading what others want. The well-known motivational speaker Zig Ziglar said that you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. Disharmony usually results from the fact that people are not responding to each other's needs. Here are some examples of disharmony that can exist in law offices, particularly large ones. Rivalry among associates to become partners. Dissatisfaction by partners over associates who do not log enough billable hours. dissatisfaction by associates that they are not receiving enough supervision and mentoring from partners, conflict among partners over the direction of the office, conflict between the office manager and the secretarial pool. Paralegals must be careful not to take sides when such conflict exists. At times, however, the conflict might directly affect them. For example, recently hired young attorneys might be reluctant to delegate tasks to paralegals because the attorneys feel pressured to increase their own billable hours. Paralegals need a three-part strategy. First, be competent. Second, publicize your competence without boasting. And third, look for ways to make others look good. Ultimately, your goal as a practitioner of effective office politics is to demonstrate to others that your competence can help them do their jobs better. To a large extent, the paralegal profession was founded on this principle. Self-promotion by paralegals is not inconsistent with this principle. As you establish your credibility, you need to make sure that others know your worth to them and to the office. Blow your horn. Let the attorney know how you saved the client thousands of dollars, how you found the hard-to-locate witness, how you organized a huge file in mere hours, how the information you gathered helped win the case, etc. Attorneys blow their horns in this manner all the time. Make sure your colleagues know of your special areas of expertise. For example, perhaps you are a good photographer. Know everything there is to know about stocks and bonds, or speak several languages. One paralegal I know dabbles in handwriting analysis. Her firm found out, and now she is a handwriting expert. Show an interest in other matters you are firm in handling. Show an interest in other matters your firm is handling. Compliment an attorney with whom you are not presently working when you hear he and or she won in court, closed a complicated big dollar deal, negotiated brilliantly, etc. Be a real team player. Ignoring, or worse, denying the ever-present politics of legal environments can be hazardous to your employment. You must be in tune with the unspoken. Listen to your intuition and the grapevine. Stay out of gossip groups. Keep your ears open and your mouths. Stay out of gossip groups. Keep your ears open and your mouth shut. Watch how the attorneys interact with each other. Monitor power plays and coalitions. Make an effort to understand each of the attorneys you work with on an individual basis. And by that I mean writing style, organizational preferences, demeanor. You must adapt to each attorney. Strategize yourself when possible. Work with other attorneys in your firm or with outside counsel or with outside co-counsel. Assist baby lawyers without a demeaning attitude. Remember that baby lawyers grow up to be associates, and associates grow up to be partners. Quick tip: observe before you speak or react. Each boss or person in the office has a different personality and different ways to manage situations. Learn the personality traits of those you work with, which will help you adapt and maneuver your work environment. What is important to note about office politics is that it exists and it is not going away. How you manage will drive how you succeed in a legal work environment. Exhibit 3-2 sets forth some techniques to navigate office politics and a legal environment. Take a look at people you respect in a competitive environment and assess what traits or abilities they possess that might help you become successful in a legal environment. Being self-assured and comfortable with who they are and their skills is something to emulate. Don't be afraid to be assertive, but balance it with a bit of humility. Refer to Exhibit 3-2. Exhibit 3-2. Techniques of effective office politics. 1. Don't be surprised that office politics exist. 2. Although job competence will not make office politics go away, if you don't perform your job well, you will have difficulty navigating office politics. 3. Be alert to who runs the office through formal power structures, the office's organizational chart or hierarchy, and informal power structures, workers whose voice carry great influence, regardless of their titles, those listened to by senior people when important decisions must be made. Find ways. A. To get to know powerful people in the office, and B. To get them to know about your competence and role as a team player who wants the office to flourish. 4. Be alert. A. Workers who constantly complain, and B. Workers who always have a positive attitude and are respected for the quality of their work. Spend your time with the second group of workers. Be alert to generational differences between you and others in the office. Do not expect everyone to do their jobs in the same way or with the same attitude. 6. Immediately defending yourself against criticism can interfere with your ability to hear, listen to legitimate concerns. When someone attacks you or you feel the urge to attack someone else, pause, stay calm, and breathe. The person criticizing you may have 5 or 6 points to make, but you would not fear them. All if you immediately point out the first error you think the person has made in their comments about you. Stay away from office gossip. Be cordial to everyone and be willing to discuss office matter programs. But avoid conversations about the personal lives of others. If you happen to hear gossip, don't repeat it. 9. Build relationships by positively interacting with others rather than by joining or aligning yourself with cliques. 10. Get to know coworkers by personal observation and contact rather than by the negative comments others make about them. 11. Make positive comments about others, but avoid empty flattery. 12. Find out what motivates others and what their goals are. 13. When possible, offer to help others with their tasks without seeking credit in return. Be willing to ask others for help, but know when is the best time to ask for help. 15. When expressing your own objections or criticism of something, do so in a professional, unemotional manner and try to present options or solutions, more than one, for example, to resolve the concern. 16. Be able to express your feelings while remaining emotionally detached. 17. Brand yourself as someone with integrity, competence, and professionalism, and as someone who is team-oriented. Social media and the law office environment. Working in a law office or any legal environment Working in a law office or any legal environment is different than working in many industries. It is more formal, with the reputation of clients, partners, and staff to consider when engaging in social media. As discussed earlier in the chapter, most legal environments are multi-generational, with differing frames of reference, especially when it comes to social media. What you might see as a harmless post on Facebook, X, or Instagram, you may not be as innocuous as it may seem. Posting a TikTok video of you and your friends off hours may seem fine until a client or other colleague sees the post and finds it damaging to the reputation of the firm or the business. Your job may not be able to dictate everything you do and say on your off time. But, as discussed in this chapter, section on office politics, you may feel the repercussions from your social media presence when you work in a legal environment. Think about what you share on social media. Will this post or picture affect my reputation or standing with the firm or business where I am working? Will the post or picture offend anyone who sees it? Am I or others in a compromising situation? Think about some of these questions when posting on social media. Additionally, don't use social media to vent about a bad day or employer. Chances are someone in the office is following you on social media, and maybe one of your friends on Facebook. You may have forgotten that you accepted the friend request of one of your colleagues who now sees your post lambasting a partner or the office in general. Maybe you cannot be reprimanded or dismissed for the post directly, but how you are perceived or treated may be dramatically changed. To combat the fact that what you do outside the office may not be actionable, many employers now have social media policies that prohibit the posting of images from the office, comments about clients or office personnel, and while others ban any postings, comments, or pictures about the firm or business in its entirety. Take the time to think about what you post on social media, as those posting may have a significant impact on your relationship with that employer and your employer. Analyze this. You are part of a team of 3 paralegals working on a case involving the trafficking of young women from overseas. You want to be a valuable member of the team, but the other 2 paralegals only gives you documents to file in the case. How would you approach your colleagues to have a more meaningful contribution in the case? Three 7 Self-assessment and employer evaluations. As emphasized several times, none of the techniques and strategies discussed in this chapter can be a substitute for your own competence as a paralegal. The techniques and strategies are designed to combat unrecognized and unrewarded competence. Are you competent? To answer this question, you must evaluate yourself and receive the evaluations of others. Here are some suggestions for making both kinds of evaluations more meaningful now and on the job. Carefully read the evaluation form in Exhibit 3-3. Such evaluations are also called performance reviews or performance appraisals. Note the standards used to earn a superior rating in the 9 categories of the evaluation. These standards should be the day-to-day employment goals of every paralegal. Exhibit 3-3, Paralegal Evaluation Form. The ideal evaluation form is one that you and your supervisor design together after you have been employed for a significant period. The goal is to have a form that is specifically geared to the tasks you perform in the office. Even if the office already has an evaluation form, think about ways to adapt it more closely to you as an individual. Make notes on what you would like to see in such a form. Discuss it with your supervisor. Your initiative in this regard will be much appreciated, especially if you make it clear that your goal is to use the evaluation to improve communication and to find ways to increase your skills and productivity. Online exercise. Search online for examples of evaluation forms for paralegals in 1. Litigation, 2. Government, or 3. Corporation. What are the similarities and differences in the types of questions used to measure a paralegal's job performance? Start preparing and thinking about evaluations when you begin your employment and on the day after your last evaluation. Do not wait until the day of the evaluation itself to prepare. Before a regularly scheduled evaluation, write a pre-evaluation memo and submit it to your supervisor. The memo should list the major cases or projects you have worked on since the last evaluation, your functions on each, names of your supervisors and coworkers on each, special accomplishments, events showing initiative such as weekend work, written or oral quotations from individuals commenting on your work, your realization rate, the percentage of total client billings of an attorney or paralegal
that the office actually collects, also called the collection realization rate. Because timekeepers often spend time on both billable tasks and non billable tasks, a further breakdown is a timekeeper's billing realization rate. This is the percentage of the timekeeper's total office time that is billable. For example, paralegals who spend half their time on non billable tasks and half on billable tasks have a 50% billable realization rate. It is sometimes easier to find out your billing realization rate than your collection realization rate. When you work on large projects, ask for a project evaluation at the conclusion of the project. This evaluation should be in addition to any regularly scheduled evaluations you receive. Before an evaluation, review your job description. If your duties have been slowly changing, rewrite your job description to reflect these changes. Submit the revision to your supervisor for approval. Before an evaluation, review the criteria by which you will be evaluated. If you are unsure, ask your supervisor for the criteria, knowing in advance the standards by which you will be judged. Will be of great assistance in preparing for the evaluation meeting. Some law offices ask their paralegals to answer specific self-evaluation questions before meeting with their supervisor for the latter's evaluation. An office in Arizona, for example, asks its paralegals to submit written answers to the following questions before a soon-to-be-held performance evaluation conference. How successful overall do you feel you have been in meeting your performance objectives that we set at the last appraisal conference? Do you feel that your performance objectives need to be modified? Are there any areas of concern in your job that you would like to discuss? What personnel assets do you have that enhance your performance on the job? What additional training do you feel you need in order to do a better job? In what ways can I help as a supervisor? Is there anything I can do differently to enable you to reach your potential? Is there anything else concerning your job that you would like to discuss? Even if you work in an office that does not require this level of self-evaluation, you should consider answering such questions on your own before a performance review. You do not have to give your written answers to the supervisor, but you should be prepared to raise some or all of the themes covered by the questions during the meeting with the supervisor. If this is your first formal evaluation by a particular supervisor, try to talk with others in the office who have been evaluated by the supervisor before. Find out what you might expect from this person. After an evaluation, set measurable improvement goals. Do not simply pledge that you will work harder. Establish goals that are more concrete. Analyze this. Review the duties and responsibilities or job description of an immigration paralegal. Create an evaluation form based on that information for a paralegal working in the immigration law area. Place the evaluation form in your job search notebook. Note that these goals can be placed on a calendar. Of course, you should also commit yourself to broader goals, like learning how to digest interrogatories or improving your drafting skills. Just be sure to include more objective, short-term, self-measurable goals as well. If you receive a negative evaluation, don't react defensively, although you will want to correct any factual errors made about you in the evaluation. Little can be gained by trying to show that the boss is wrong. You might want to thank the supervisor for the comments and then ask for a few days to respond so that you can collect your thoughts. When you do respond, the best approach is to discuss ways in which you can improve your performance. Sometimes criticism from a supervisor can be vague. When this occurs, paralegal Ilona Juben recommends that you ask for specific examples and tell them you want to be sure you understand what they're talking about so you can be sure to address and improve performance in that area. I've learned over the years that it's best to be respectful but assertive and insist upon clear examples so that you're not left floundering, not knowing precisely what they're unhappy with or how to improve. Before your next regularly scheduled evaluation after a negative evaluation, Ask for a follow-up evaluation to determine whether you have made progress on what was considered negative. Suppose you work in an office that does not have regularly scheduled performance evaluations. It never uses formal written evaluations. Employees are evaluated, but not on an organized, consistent written basis. If so, you need to become an advocate for a more structured system of evaluation. You will be successful if you can convince your supervisor of two things. Structured evaluations have value and will not take too much of the supervisor's time. Propose the use of evaluation forms such as the one in Exhibit 3-3, or design your own evaluation form. As suggested earlier, if you are unsuccessful in getting a busy supervisor to give you formal evaluations, ask for brief oral comments on your work covering strengths and areas in need of improvement. Take notes on what the supervisor says. Tie up the notes and ask the supervisor to read them. All you need is, I want to be sure that I have been precise in understanding the comments and concerns you raised. A large factor in obtaining and learning from evaluations is your ability to handle criticism. Many of us are defensive when someone tells us something negative about our work or our attitude. Here are some interrelated suggestions on taking criticism. Listen to all comments without trying to influence or criticize the critic. Be sure you understand the complaint. Admit when you are wrong. It is a sign of strength. Agree with the truth. Admit when you do not know something. Ask for clarification. Ask for instructions or advice on improving your performance. Be someone who is teachable. Think of ways you can put the advice into action. Design measurable goals. We will have more to say about evaluations later when we discuss ways to support a request for a salary increase. 3-8. Working with attorneys. Paralegals are sometimes surprised to learn that many, perhaps most, attorneys just out of law school do not have many day-to-day practical skills. Using the case method of legal education, in which law students spend a vast amount of time studying appellate court opinions, law school teaches students how to think like a lawyer. There is a heavy emphasis on doctrine and theory as opposed to the nuts and bolts of representing clients. A bar association president recently commented, "Many new lawyers come out of law school never having drafted a complaint, never having seen a contract, never having interacted with a client, much less an adverse witness." Most law schools try to offset this concern by offering clinical education programs, but such programs are expensive to run and are usually a minor part of the overall 3-year law school curriculum. A complaint frequently heard from veteran attorneys is that graduates of law schools are not practice ready. Consequently, the early months of a new attorney's time in a law office is often taken up with basic on-the-job training. With a ring of overstatement but a dollop of truth, it is sometimes said that law school scares students to death in the first year, works them to death in the second, and bores them to death in the third. The turmoil in legal education for attorneys is not due to dwindling demand for legal services. In fact, the need for legal services continues to increase. Unfortunately, the poor and middle class cannot afford attorney fees. Attorneys point out that if fees are too low, they will not be able to operate their offices. Furthermore, many new attorneys carry student debt loans that take years to repay. We will examine this reality in greater depth in Chapter 4 when we cover reforms in the practice of law. The attorney with whom a paralegal usually has the closest association is the paralegal's immediate supervisor, or supervisors if the paralegal works for more than one attorney. The personality of a particular attorney has a great deal to do with the effectiveness of the paralegal-attorney working relationship. Many paralegals speak in glowing terms about their attorney supervisor. Not only is the attorney easy to work with, but they also provide a challenging environment within which the paralegal can grow. Other attorneys, however, fall short of this standard. They do not function well as the leader of a team. This may be due to the rigors of law school, popularized in the movie and TV show Paper Chase, and the unique demands of law practice. According to two experts on the practice of law, a number of characteristics common to many attorneys do not encourage effective team building. Autonomy. Attorneys are less likely to collaborate than people in the occupations. Often they adhere to their preferred approach even when another is more effective. Critical. The successful attorney is highly critical. Typically, the focus of the attorney is on what is wrong with an idea. The merits of the idea are often given little consideration or are ignored. Competitive. The attorney is competitive and adversarial, as is the legal system itself. In policy questions and in personal relationships, progress and truth are achieved through varying degrees of confrontation. Attorneys are trained to argue their point and win their arguments. As a result, attorneys are not always the easiest people to work with, or, for consequently, to be successful. As a result, attorneys are not always the easiest people to work with, or for, consequentially, to be successful as a paralegal, you must learn how to manage the styles of the attorneys and staff with whom you will work. It may not be easy to work with attorneys who fit some of the characteristics mentioned, but the key to survival is assertiveness, both overtly and covertly. Most attorneys prefer to work with paralegals who are assertive, competent, and knowledgeable, but do not confuse assertiveness with aggressiveness, which is our focus in the next section of this chapter. (3-9) Assertive and non-assertive behavior. (3-9) Assertive, non-assertive, and aggressive behavior. Assertive persons are positive and self-assured in expressing their views. Non-assertive persons tend to hold back because of a lack of self-confidence. Aggressive persons are in your face. They complain often and rarely worry about how their views affect others. They may be right in many things. They may be right in many of the things they are saying, but they are so unpleasant that supervisors and coworkers seldom take them seriously. Successfully assertive people are competent and display competence, respect the competence of others, are prepared, show initiative, do not always wait to be told what to do, are willing to help others do their job well, know that one of the best ways to help others solve problems is to provide them with options, are self-assured enough to give credit to coworkers and subordinates, are able to give credit to superiors without it being taken as empty, flattering, or fawning, act like professionals, act like they belong in the office, are always willing to learn, are problem solvers. Rarely, if ever, will they state a criticism or problem without offering a menu of realistic solutions, do not shy away from office politics, know the difference between griping griping and negotiating, understand the necessity of compromise, know the difference between little concerns and major ones, do not treat every problem as a crisis, advocate with resolve, not by carping or fanfare, are secure enough to be able to say no, are not offensive, can express an opinion without putting someone down, appreciate the value of timing, know that now is not always the best time to try to resolve a problem, know when and how to lose gracefully. Assertive paralegals make themselves known. The backbone of assertiveness is competence. Your work product meets high standards. The key to assertiveness is timing.
You watch for the right moment to come forward. The foundation of assertiveness is preparation. You have collected all the facts that support your position. Suppose, for example, that after being on a job for a while, you feel that you are not earning what you are worth. What do? Here are some different approaches. Three dash 9 Non-assertive. You hope that things will get better, but you don't want to rock the boat. After all, your salary isn't that bad. It could be worse. You talk with fellow paralegals about your salary, and you are very frank with your aunt when the two of you talk on the phone about your work. But there's no sense in trying to get the firm to pay you more. The firm probably doesn't earn that much, and Mr. Smith, the head of the firm, is very pleasant to work with. Money isn't that important. Maybe next year will be better. 3-9B Aggressive. 3 weeks after you begin your job, you tell your supervisor that your salary is ridiculous. With inflation, how do you expect me to live on this salary? When your supervisor is not responsive, you send a memo to all the attorneys in the firm demanding that something be done about the paralegal salaries. When you walk the corridors of the firm, you are always visibly angry. 3-9C Assertive. You make sure that the decision makers in the firm know who you are and what you have accomplished. Months before you ask for a raise, you ask your supervisor to identify those factors that will be taken into consideration in evaluating your overall performance. In the months that you follow, you make sure that you organize your efforts and your notes in accordance with the criteria the supervisor initially identified. You review written guidelines, if any, on policies of the office regarding compensation. Such guidelines might be in the office procedures manual or employment handbooks for the office. You prepare a fact sheet that summarizes your contributions to the office, including evaluations of your work, lists favorable comments that you solicited when you asked supervisors to put in writing favorable oral comments they made to you about your work, lists cases and projects you have worked on, highlighting special tasks such as helping design part of the forms manual or helping to train a new paralegal or attorney, lists non-billable tasks you performed that freed an attorney to devote more of their time to billable tasks, contains data from salary surveys, examples, a national utilization and compensation survey published by the National Association of Legal Assistants, www.nala.org. www.nala.org. Online salary surveys on Google, Bing, or Yahoo. Search salary paralegal. You know your numbers consisting of your billing realization rate and, if able, your collection realization rate. You attempt to find out as much relevant information about the economics of the firm as possible. Like, for example, the percentage salary increase that the office generally gives employees, the extent to which the office or your department in the office was profitable last year and is profitable this year to date, and usual and unusual expenses in the office, like, for example, the purchase of new computer equipment. Such events will inevitably have an impact on salary decisions made by the office. You discuss strategies for seeking a raise with other paralegals in the firm, with other paralegals in the area, and perhaps with some attorneys in the firm with whom you have developed considerable rapport. You select the right time to meet with your supervisor. You don't rely on email to state your case for a raise. You decide to wait until the supervisor is not busy with a difficult case. You don't wait, however, until the next regularly scheduled performance review. Salary decisions may already have been made by then. You may adopt a two-part strategy. You first ask for a meeting with your supervisor to go over your contributions and to discuss ways of increasing your productivity. At a follow-up meeting, you bring up the topic of a salary increase. If you are unsuccessful in obtaining the raise you are seeking, you have a fallback position. Like, for example, you seek a performance bonus in lieu of a raise. Additional insurance, educational tuition reimbursement, or other fringe benefits. Perhaps a different office setting or flex time. If you ask successful paralegals about their secret of success, see Exhibit 3-4. One message will come through loud and clear. Seize the initiative. No one is going to hand you anything simply because you are smart or because you have a certificate. You must prove yourself. You must be assertive. Exhibit 3-4. Taking the initiative. Recommendations of successful paralegals. Tammy Coyne. I have heard this tired refrain many times. I am a hard worker and just don't get the recognition or the responsibility I deserve. This attitude gets you nowhere. If you believe that it is up to your employer to pick you out of the crowd and reward you just because you do your job, you will be sorely disappointed. In order to advance a paralegal, you must prove that you are capable of taking on greater responsibility by performing your present duties exceptionally well. Show your initiative by anticipating the next stage of any assignment and completing it before you are asked to do it. Do not wait for recognition or feedback. You must be the one to initiate a feedback discussion after you have completed an assignment. Shelley Risden. Be proactive. If you know that your boss is going to ask you to do something, go ahead and do it before he or she has the chance. After you have worked for an attorney for a few months, you can get a feel for what their routine is and what tasks you can do ahead of time. A proactive paralegal can have the work done or the problem solved before their boss is even aware it exists. Renee Sova. Volunteer to draft the document. Say, I can do that. Will you let me try? Patience is a virtue. If the lawyer doesn't accommodate your first request, keep asking. Upon receiving and ultimately completing the assignment, there is nothing wrong with asking, what could I have done differently to make it better? This shows you truly care about your work product. Always do more than is expected. Few professionals become successful by leaving their careers to fate. Marian Johnson. The greatest key to success is something no one can give you. A good attitude, enthusiasm, has nothing to do with noise. It has more to do with motivation. It deals with our attitude. An attitude is something you can do something about. I can choose to be enthusiastic or I can choose not to be. Excitement is infectious. It's sort of like a case of measles. You can't infect someone unless you have the real thing. Ann Pearson. Be the go-to person. Successful paralegals generate billable hours. To do so, you must be available. Be there when they come looking for someone at 5:30 p.m. to do a last-minute project. Sherry Estrin. Be assertive. Take an attorney to lunch. Technology update. Embracing new technologies. The focus of this chapter has been the law office environment and how to be a success within that environment. We have investigated the nuances of the different generations and how to be assertive without being considered aggressive. Technology is an area where some are the first in line to purchase the latest gadget or newest program, and others want nothing to do with. Regardless of whether your immediate colleagues embrace technology or resist it altogether, You can make yourself an invaluable asset by taking the initiative and learning about new technologies that may assist in your work environment. What are the latest courtroom technologies or discovery tools? What are the best ways to maximize client contacts, such as creating client portals for better and more confidential communications? What new programs are available to assist in preparing a legal brief? These are some of the areas that technology assists those in the legal profession. Read online bar or paralegal journals or blogs that highlight new technologies and trends. As noted later in the chapter, participate in CLEs and communicate what you have learned to staff and others within your firm or company. Stay one step ahead by being proactive and assertive in increasing your knowledge about technology in the legal setting. Everyone is extremely busy and focused on the next project, due date, or trial. Make yourself stand out and be that go-to person by staying abreast of the next new thing in technology that may assist in the practice with which you are involved. Use the advances in technology to your advantage and continually update your skills and show how you can be and are a valuable and indispensable member of the team. On a side note, for those who are new to the profession, YouTube videos can enhance your skills and familiarity with the technology that your office currently offers. The message is clear. Keep looking for the next best thing and keep current with the skills that you already possess. 3-10. The skill of listening. Assertive listening is another critical skill we all must learn. Unfortunately, the following two facts are probably true about most of us. 1, we are poor listeners, and 2, we think we are excellent listeners. Effective listening is important in many aspects of the practice of law. In Chapter 12, on legal interviewing, for example, we will cover attentive listening, which consists of affirmative ongoing steps taken by an interviewer to let an interviewee know that the interviewer has heard what the interviewee has just said and that the interviewer considers the meeting with the interviewee to be important. See Chapter 12 on techniques of attentive learning. Most of us tend to shift our listening style, often unconsciously, depending on the circumstances. Examine the following categories of listening, some of which overlap. Ask yourself which categories you use and when you use them. Developing self-awareness in this area can increase your potential as a paralegal. Clearly, the category of listening that takes the most work to use and the category that many of us do not use on a consistent basis is active listening. Passive listening. Passive listening occurs when we are present in body but not in mind. We can't wait for the speaker to stop talking so that we can approve onto something or someone else. We listen passively when we multitask by doing several things at once, only one of which is listening to the person talking, or by thinking about a variety of tasks that need doing once the talker stops. Facial expressions and body language are clues that passive listening is occurring. Eyes wander, the body appears restless, the speaker is made to feel that they are not important enough to have the other's undivided attention. Listeners may feel justified in what they are doing because of how busy they are, but their approach does not show respect and runs the risk of tainting what should be a cooperative relationship. Status can play a role in who perceives passive listening from us. We tend to have a short attention span for individuals we deem to be beneath us on the career path or social ladder. We're all ears for others. Appreciative listening. The purpose of appreciative listening is to enjoy what is being heard rather than to acquire new facts. We use this kind of listening to enjoy music or to hear a good storyteller. We are not irritated if we have heard the music or story before. Appreciative listening is most effective when we are trying to get along with someone. When we meet new people, for example, a new coworker, appreciative listening helps establish rapport and an inviting atmosphere. Evaluative listening. The purpose of evaluative listening is to make a decision of some kind. We may be trying to decide whether to buy a certain product or whether someone is believable. We try to separate facts from opinions. We listen for logical arguments that support particular conclusions. We look for holes, inconsistencies, or contradictions. Evaluative listening is critical when interviewing a witness or assessing the merits of a client's case. Judgmental listening. Judgmental listening is evaluative listening with a sting. The listener is looking for flaws in what others say in order to put them in their place. They have preconceived ideas about the speaker or the ideas presented. There is very little effort to understand or emphasize. Judgmental listeners. There is very little effort to understand or empathize. Judgmental listeners are often unaware that their need to control, indeed to win, the conversation indicates insecurity. Judgmental listeners are often unaware that their need to control, indeed to win, the conversation indicates insecurity. Some of us are uncomfortable in giving the impression that we don't know something or that Some of us are uncomfortable in giving the impression that we don't know something or that what we know less than the other person. Good listeners tend to be humble. They rarely ever listen judgmentally. Empathetic listening. The purpose of empathetic listening is to let speakers know that you support them and understand their feelings. You listen for the facts of what the speaker is saying. But just as important, you are sensitive to the overt and underlying emotions that come with the facts. Evaluative listening can get in the way of empathetic listening when the listener appears more interested in judging than connecting with the speaker. Empathetic listeners may correctly predict what the speaker is going to say and may have solutions that will help the speaker. But the listener holds back in order to allow the speaker to express themselves. Only when the speaker feels understood, due to empathetic listening, will the speaker be receptive to solutions. Me Too listening. A Me Too listener is quick to let the speaker know that the same thing happened to me. You may think that your Me Too comment is affirming what the speaker has said. When in fact, the message you are communicating is that what happened to the speaker is nothing special or unusual. Perhaps it isn't, but the speaker may need to feel a moment of importance or sympathy. Being too quick with a Me Too response may be sending a somewhat insensitive message. Active listening. An active listener takes affirmative steps to understand what the speaker is saying. The active listener does not multitask while listening, like for example, the cell phone is off, looks at the speaker while they are talking, avoids body language that gives the impression that they would prefer to be doing something other than listening to the speaker, asks clarifying questions, provides affirming nods or comments, like for example, I see, to indicate that they are following what is said, occasionally repeats back or paraphrases what the speaker has said to make sure they heard correctly. Is never irritated when the speaker is confused or inarticulate. In inappropriate settings, takes notes on what is being said, has no need to provide a contrary opinion unless specifically invited to provide one, is in no hurry to respond, understands that a defensive response, like for example, what you said about me is not true, should sometimes be postponed. Like for example, let me think about what you said and get back to you. In order to think through the best response, again, we will have more to say about listening in Chapter 12 on legal interviewing when we cover attentive listening, which combines features of appreciative, empathetic, and active listening. See Exhibit 3-5 for a summary of the different types of listeners. Exhibit 3-5, Summary of the different types of listeners. Active, passive, appreciative, evaluative, judgmental, empathetic, me too, different types of listening. Analyze this. Provide two characteristics of a passive listener, a judgmental listener, and an empathetic listener. Compare and contrast these types of listeners. (3-11) Keeping a diary of journal and a career development file. 3-11A, Diary or journal. Earlier in this chapter, we mentioned keeping a report in which you regularly record your work in progress, WIP. In addition, have a job diary or journal that contains the following: notes on the assignment you are given, like for example, what you were asked to do, date you received the assignment, its due date, feedback received before completion, changes in the assignment made by the supervisor, sources consulted, and date completed. Names of the parties on both sides of the cases on which you perform tasks, favorable and unfavorable comments, written or oral, on your work, total billable hours per day, attributable to billable tasks, i.e., important example, those for which the office can charge the client a fee, and total non-billable tasks, like for example, helping to orient a new paralegal. Your realization rate, dates you worked evenings and weekends, dates you worked at home, dates you were late, were absent, or had to leave early, dates you came in early or worked through lunch hour, names of clients you referred to the firm, time you spent doing your own typing or photocopying, time you spend in courses, seminars, or other ventures to improve your skills. You need to have the facts of your employment at your command. The diary or journal is your personal record. You keep it to yourself for use as needed. Not only will the facts be valuable when you are making an argument for a raise, but they might also be essential when misunderstandings arise about what you have or have not done. Keeping the diary or journal may be burdensome for you at first, and you may not make use of it for a while. It is worth the burden and the weight. You are working in a legal environment that respects someone who has the facts, particularly with dates. 3-11B, Career Development File. In addition, start a career development file that contains everything that is relevant to your employment and growth as a paralegal. It should include resumes, a copy of every resume you have written, including a current one that you should regularly update even if you are not thinking about leaving your current position. Job history, a record of the dates you were hired in previous and current jobs, who hired you, who supervised you, a copy of your job description, starting salary, amounts and dates of raises, bonuses, and other benefits received, dates and reasons you left, work accomplishments, a company of every written evaluation, letters received from clients commenting on your work, verbal comments made about your work by supervisors that you later wrote down, professional activities, evidence of your involvement with paralegal associations, attendance at conferences, seminars, and classes, including names of teachers, copies of syllabi, etc. See the discussion of CLE in the next section. Speaking engagements, articles you have written for paralegal newsletters or blogs, career client lists, a list of every case on which you worked at any job or volunteer office. Include the exact names of all clients, opposing parties, and opposing attorneys, a brief description of your role in each case, and the dates of your involvement in these cases. Some of this data can come from your diary or journal and work in progress. The difference is that the career client list covers your entire career, not just current cases and your current job. The data may be needed when you seek employment with another law office that wants to avoid being disqualified from a case due to a conflict of interest that arises because of your involvement with a particular party at a prior job. See the discussion of conflicts, checks, and career client lists in Chapter 6. Now you are ready. You have documented your professional life. You have assembled a catalog of facts that can be very useful weeks and months later when you or someone else in the office asks about a particular case. You have what you need when you sit down with management to discuss the raise for which you have been patiently waiting. If there is a career ladder in the office, you have assembled what will be relevant if the time comes to demonstrate that you deserve the next step up the ladder. Even if you are not looking for another job, you are ready to pursue unexpected opportunities that can be passed up. Even if you are looking for another job, you are ready to pursue unexpected opportunities that can't be passed up. 3-12 Paralegal CLE. Elsewhere in this book, we have stressed the reality that your legal education never ends. There's always something to learn. This is true for attorneys, and it is certainly true for paralegals. Education after employment is called continuing legal education, CLE. CLE is offered mainly by bar associations, paralegal associations, and other organizations. There are two main ways in which CLE takes place. The traditional way is to go to a brick-and-mortar building, such as a downtown hotel facility. The training might occur on a workday afternoon or on a Saturday. Alternatively, a great deal of CLE is now offered online and are live and also recorded so that the course can be taken at any time. CLE is usually short-term. Most courses can be completed in 1 day or less. You can select CLE that directly and immediately relates to your day-to-day job responsibilities. Here's an example of this reality from Felicia Garant, a paralegal in Maine. I had an experience where I attended a half-day title insurance seminar and passed around a memo to attorneys in my section of the firm summarizing what I had learned there. A few minutes after I circulated the memo, an attorney flew out of his office exclaiming, "There's a new law on this subject." He asked me to help him get a copy of the law since he had a case at that time that would be directly affected. You are the attorney's extra pair of eyes and ears, and you may pick up something at these seminars which will be new to the attorney. Your attendance at seminars, educating yourself, then passing the information on to the attorney not only increases your qualification as a legal assistant, but also makes you a valuable employee. CLE is not limited to substantive law topics such as insurance, corporations, and taxation. Some of the top CLE subjects were as follows: 1. Software training. 2. Time management. 3. Electronic filing, e-filing of court documents. 4. Ethics issues related to areas such as texting, unauthorized practice of law, confidentiality. 5. Work-life balance. Often, an employer is willing to pay all or part of your expenses in attending such seminars and to give you time off if they occur during work hours, even if your employer refuses to pay for them. You should go on your own time and at your own expense. Few things are more important to the professional development of a paralegal than CLE. In almost every state, attorneys must attend a designated number of CLE hours per year as a condition of maintaining their license to practice law. As we will see in Chapter 4, CLE is required to maintain voluntary certification status with national and some state paralegal associations. In California, failure of a paralegal to comply with the state's mandatory CLE requirements can lead to a fine and imprisonment. Mandatory CLE for paralegals, however, does not exist in most states. Online exercises. Search NALA, NAAG, National Association of Attorneys General, and local paralegal associations for CLE courses. Determine which are free or offer scholarships. Attend a CLE if available. Quick tip. With membership, many organizations offer free CLE such as the American Bar Association, ABA, NAAG, state, regional, and local bar associations, and paralegal associations. Know what organizations your firm, company, or organization belongs to, as employees can benefit from the membership. Online exercise. Determine whether your jurisdiction has a CLE technology competence requirement for lawyers and paralegals. If so, what are those requirements in your jurisdiction? 3-13. Responsibilities of supervisors. What is a good attorney supervisor? See Exhibit 3-6 for a checklist of factors that are relevant to this question. Although not all the factors in the checklist are applicable to every law office, they provide a good overview of what many paralegals view as effective supervision. Exhibit 3-6, Checklist for Effective Supervision of Paralegals. 1. Gives clear instructions on assignments. 2. Provides adequate training for each assignment given. Takes the time to make sure the paralegal can perform the task. 3. Does not overburden the paralegal with assignments. Before giving a new assignment, determines what the paralegal already has to do. 4. Provides reasonable deadlines on assignments with adequate time built in for review and redrafting where appropriate. 5. Takes affirmative steps to inquire about the paralegal's progress on assignments to determine if more guidance is needed or if deadline extensions should be given. 6. Delegates a variety of tasks. 7. Occasionally encourages the paralegal to use the law library via physical books or online to increase their knowledge and to participate the broader legal context of the case. 8. Does not unduly pressure the paralegal about producing a quota of billable hours. 9. Whenever possible, allows the paralegal to become involved in a case at the beginning, like for example, at the initial client interview. 10. Permits the paralegal to experience the end product of cases on which they are working, like for example, gives the paralegal a copy of the finished product or invites them to a court presentation. 11. Keeps the paralegal informed about the status of a case, even with regard to aspects of the case on which the paralegal is not working. 12. When appropriate, includes the paralegal in strategy meetings on cases. 13. Introduces clients to the paralegal, explains the paralegal's role, and expresses confidence in the paralegal. 14. Is supportive when the paralegal makes a mistake, provides constructive, corrective suggestions for the future. 15. Looks for ways the paralegal can increase their skills. 16. Encourages paralegals to give their opinions on cases and on office policy. 17. Designs systems with instructions, checklists, forms, etc., to be used by paralegals for the performance of assigned tasks. 18. Encourages experienced paralegals to help write these systems. 19. Evaluates the paralegal informally and in writing. 20. Gives credit to the paralegal when credit is due. 21. Makes sure others in the firm know about the contribution of the paralegal. 22. Backs the paralegal's reasonable requests on salary and working conditions. 23. Supports the paralegal's need for financial help and time off, to attend outside training programs, CLE, and to participate in activities of paralegal associations. 24. Considers allowing the paralegal to have reasonable time off to do some pro bono work, like, for example, time donated to poverty law offices or public interest law firms. 3-14. Relationship with legal secretaries and administrative assistants. The term secretary in the legal field, at least, is a developing area. Titles have changed to reflect the myriad of responsibilities and skills they possess. More often than not, a person who was once called a secretary is most likely now called a 1. Legal assistant, 2. An administrative assistant, 3. Personal assistant, 4. Program assistant, 5. An executive assistant. As a result, be sensitive to the titles of those with whom you work, as the titles have evolved, and what was an expected title or vernacular in the past is not in today's business or legal environment. It is important to recognize that the legal profession has been evolving and continues to evolve. At one time, many secretaries, particularly those in smaller law offices, resented the hiring of paralegals. Each was suspicious of the other's function. No one wants to be considered obsolete or the new kid on the block. The paralegal was seen as a threat to the law office dynamics. Through the passage of time, both the legal secretary and administrative assistant realized that both positions were necessary for a well-functioning legal environment. In most law offices, secretaries and paralegals work together smoothly, yet tension can occasionally surface, particularly over the issue of titles. As we saw in Chapter 1, a large number of secretaries have begun to call themselves legal assistants without obtaining additional legal training. An attorney employer might encourage this title switch in order to increase the likelihood of collecting paralegal fees for their work. Part of the confusion over titles is due to the fact that there is an overlap of functions in many law offices. There are attorneys who perform paralegal tasks, secretaries who perform paralegal tasks, and paralegals who perform attorney tasks. On paper, the three roles are distinct, but in practice, there can be considerable overlap, particularly in smaller law offices. Furthermore, computers on every desk make it possible for individuals to increase the variety of tasks that they perform. In times of pressure, like for example during a trial or when a large commercial transaction must be completed before a looming deadline, everyone tends to pull together by doing whatever it takes to accomplish the task at hand. During a crisis, you will rarely, if ever, hear anyone say, "That's not my job." In light of this reality, it is understandable that some legal secretaries are ambivalent about their title. The paralegal occupation grew out of the legal secretary occupation before paralegal training programs became commonplace. A large number of paralegals came from the ranks of legal secretaries. Many secretaries were members of NALS, National Association of Legal Secretaries. When the paralegal field grew, paralegals started forming their own associations, as pointed out in Chapter 1. NALA, National Association of Legal Assistants, was initially formed as a breakaway association from NALS. NALS, however, does not consider itself to be a secretaries-only association, as demonstrated by its name change from National Association of Legal Secretaries to National Association for Legal Support Professionals, www.nals.org. In addition to its certification program for legal secretaries, NALS also has its own examination for legal assistants and paralegals, leading to certification as a professional paralegal, PP, accredited legal professional, ALP, and certified legal professional, CLP, as we will see in Chapter 4. In general, the market for legal secretaries has declined as more attorneys, particularly young attorneys, become comfortable with email and word processing software that enables them to think as they write. Consequently, they do not need the full range of secretarial assistance that they traditionally depended on. According to one expert, the old model of the legal secretary as personal assistant is becoming increasingly incompatible with business reality. With some expectations, today technology tools often make it more efficient for a lawyer to do something themselves instead of relying on staff. Email is used for most routine correspondence, and many lawyers are using some combination of speech recognition tools and dictation transcription services. Many of the things that a personal assistant would have done in the past are now more easily done by the lawyer directly on the computer, such as scheduling an appointment with a client while talking to them on the phone after the call. The lawyer can also record the billing entry for the phone call electronically. Even a two-fingered typist can enter a single, simple billing entry. The job of secretary is not going to disappear, but it is definitely going through a transition that has many secretaries concerned about job security. To make themselves more valuable to the office, some secretaries seek to take on paralegal tasks. When you begin working in law offices and start your own relationship with legal support staff, it is useful to keep this background in mind. Your sensitivity to the ongoing development of the legal secretary's role will help you establish good working relationships with legal support staff. Not only will other paralegals assist you in learning about the law office, but other support staff are also an invaluable source of support, information, and procedures that you will need as you learn your profession. Returning to our fact scenario at the beginning of the chapter, the paralegal learned that one of the most important relationships to develop was the legal secretary. The legal secretary covered for the supervising attorney, who was not tech savvy, was the one who controlled the information exchange and the one whom the paralegal was going to have to embrace in order to have a successful experience at the law firm. At least when working on cases for a particular attorney, what the paralegal had to learn was more than adaptability. It was navigating the different skill sets of the attorneys with whom they were practicing. In that situation, adjusting the means of communication was important, as no one was going to adjust their practices to accommodate our paralegal. 3-15. Sexual harassment in the workplace. Sexual harassment is unwanted and offensive sexual advances, contact comments, or other interaction. On the job, two categories of sexual harassment constitute an unlawful employment practice under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Quid pro quo sexual harassment, submission to or rejection of unwelcome sexual conduct used as a basis for employment decisions on promotion or other job-related benefits. Hostile environment sexual harassment, pervasive, unwelcome sexual conduct or sex-based ridicule that unreasonably interferes with an individual's job performance or that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment, even if no tangible or economic consequences result. An example of quid pro quo sexual harassment is a worker who is fired for refusing to become sexually intimate with a supervisor. An example of hostile environment sexual harassment is an office or other workplace that is pervaded by people telling dirty jokes, displaying obscene pictures, making graphic comments about the bodies of other people, touching themselves sexually in the presence of others, persistently asking for dates, etc. This can be sexual harassment even if the person offended by such conduct is not being asked to engage in such behavior or is not being denied an employment benefit for refusing to do so. An employer must actively combat sexual harassment by establishing a written policy against sexual harassment and publicizing the policy throughout the office, investigating all accusations of sexual harassment promptly, establishing appropriate sanctions for employees who commit sexual harassment, informing employees of their right to bring a charge of sexual harassment under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, and telling them how to bring such a charge. It is not a defense for an employer to say they did not know that one of the employees engaged in sexual harassment or another employee, or that the harassment took place in spite of an office policy forbidding it. If the employer should have known of the harassing conduct, the employer must take immediate and appropriate corrective action beyond merely telling all employees not to engage in sexual harassment. Studies indicate that the harassment in a law office can come from a superior, a colleague, or a client. Here are some concrete examples. The paralegal told of one incident in which a partner placed his hand on her knee and asked if she had thought about her future with the firm. Harassment of women lawyers is only the tip of the iceberg. According to the paralegal, the support staff has it much, much worse. A female paralegal began working with an insecure male lawyer who was a first-year associate at the firm. He started making the moves on her by constantly asking if she was dating anyone. One day, he called her in his office, closed the door, dialed a number on the phone, and handed the receiver to the paralegal. What I heard was an obscene recording. I laughed, opened the door, and left. She did not believe in pursuing office relationships. Resentment developed when they began working on the same case together. He falsely accused the paralegal of lying and of not completing assignments on time. He made derogatory comments to her coworkers. When she confided in a female lawyer at the firm, she was told that the associate acts that way with all the women at the firm, that the paralegal supervisor and the associate are very good friends, that the partner in charge sticks to this associate like glue and does not want to be bothered by petty personnel problems. When something of this nature happens, make detailed contemporaneous notes on who said and did what. Do this immediately after the incident. Should you do anything more, a passive response would be to ignore the problem and hope that it will go away. Another response would be to blame yourself. For isolated and less serious problems, all that may be needed is a firm comment to the offender, such as, "Miss Smith, you know that I respect your ability and authority in the firm, but I want you to know that I do not appreciate the comment you made at that meeting about me as a woman. I did not think it was appropriate or professional." Unfortunately, this approach may be inadequate when the problem becomes more complicated and persists. All possible internal avenues for resolving the problem should be attempted. The hope is that somebody in a position of responsibility will lend a sympathetic ear. Local paralegal associations should be a source of ideas and support. Speak with officers of the association. Go to general meetings. Ask for advice. It is highly likely that you will find others who have had similar experiences and who can provide concrete suggestions. If all else fails, you have a powerful weapon at your disposal: the law. Harassment on the basis of sex is a violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, as well as state departments of civil rights are available to enforce the law. Quick tip: human resources should be one of the first places to report an incident of sexual harassment. They should investigate the matter internally with a report of their findings. If your human resources department is not available, check with local Department of Labor Civil Rights Divisions, the EEOC, or law enforcement authorities. Violations can lead to severe penalties. In one case, the legal community was shocked by a jury award of $6.9 million in punitive damages against one of the world's largest law firms, Baker and McKenzie, because of sexual harassment by one of its partners against his legal secretary. With other damages, the award came to $7.1 million. The court later reduced the award to about $3.5 million. The partner's offensive conduct included dumping candy in the front pocket of the secretary's blouse, fondling her breasts, and grabbing her hips and asking her repeatedly, "What is the wildest thing you have done?" The jury found that the firm was negligent in the way it responded to her allegations against the partner. It was not enough for the firm to transfer the employee to another attorney when she complained of the behavior. The court was not persuaded by the argument that the partner simply had an overactive imagination. After the trial, the secretary's attorneys said that the case should substantially affect law firms across the country, and the chairman of Baker and McKenzie's executive committee said the firm will handle any future complaints of sexual harassment from its employees very differently. Sexual harassment in the workplace has been a much more open topic with the advent of the Me Too movement and the exposure of harassing behavior of top executives in many industries. Most notable of late is the downfall of movie executive Harvey Weinstein, the subject of exposés, books, and movies. The sexual harassment that was revealed showed the pervasive nature of the practice and the long-standing pattern of inappropriate treatment of women, in particular in the workplace. It is important to note that the workplace sexual harassment is not limited to women. Others have been the subject of workplace sexual harassment. An older movie that was novel at the time of its release in 1994 was Disclosure, with Demi Moore and Michael Douglas, which portrayed a woman harassing a man in the workplace. Remember, no gender is immune. For a case involving sexual harassment in the workplace, Severity vs. Commonwealth 2006 MASS Super Lexus 297 Superior CT Mass 2006 discusses what constitutes sexual harassment and what it does not. Order of the Court, a case study. Severity vs. Commonwealth, Superior Court, Massachusetts, 2006, MASS Super Lexus 297, Superior CT, Mass 2006. Are gender discrimination and sexual harassment the same thing? These were two questions posed in Severity vs. Commonwealth 2006 MASS Super Lexus 297 Superior CT Mass 2006. Leah Severity was a paralegal with the Massachusetts Department of Transitional Assistance DTA. She began with the DTA in 1997, assisting in prosecuting welfare fraud. She learned her job well. She received excellent job performance reviews and was soon given greater responsibility, which included training other paralegals. While working, Lisa became pregnant. She continued to train others. Both she and an individual she trained applied to be training supervisors. Lisa did not get the job. Rather, her less experienced coworker got the job. She gave birth to a daughter after applying for a new position. At that point, Lisa noticed that attitudes from her superiors and others had changed. They were negative towards women with small children, including the failure to promote. Lisa did not notice the attitude change until she had her own child. Negative remarks were made about women with young children and the negative effects of women having children. One remark that was noteworthy was as long as nobody else got pregnant, the unit would remain effective. The court noted that none of the comments made by Lisa's supervisors were sexual in nature. Others who were hired later than Lisa continued to get promoted over her. Those who were promoted were either childless or had older children. When Lisa inquired about why she was not being promoted, a supervisor alluded to the fact that others did not have small children and could be put in the extra hours. When Lisa inquired about why she was not being promoted, a supervisor alluded to the fact that others did not have small children and could put in the extra hours. After the inquiry, Lisa's work was under closer scrutiny. She suffered emotionally and eventually requested to be selected for a voluntary layoff. Ultimately, Lisa filed a complaint against DTA. In the course of the lawsuit, motions for summary judgment were filed. The court analyzed whether Lisa's case could proceed and on what grounds. Our focus will be on the claims of sexual harassment and gender discrimination. The Superior Court, trial court, analyzed various cases from a number of jurisdictions as Lisa's employers, DTA, raised that she had not be discriminated. The Superior Court, trial court, analyzed various cases from a number of jurisdictions as Lisa's employers, DTA, raised that she had not be discriminated against based on sex. The court disagreed and stated that stereotyped remarks can be evidence of gender discrimination. Comments such as women cannot be both a mother and good worker constitutes evidence of gender discrimination according to the court. Such gender stereotyping comments present sufficient fact issues to overcome a motion for summary judgment. The next issue the court addressed was whether Lisa had experienced acts of sexual harassment in her workplace. The court focused on the definition of sexual harassment as well as the two main types of sexual harassment. They are quid pro quo and hostile work environment. Lisa only alleged a hostile work environment. For there to be a claim of hostile work environment, sexual harassment, there must be allegations of acts of sexual advances or requests or any physical or verbal conduct of a sexual nature. The allegations were only related to Lisa's status as a mother with small children and her coworkers and supervisors' attitudes towards her because of her status. Thus, on this issue, there were not sufficient facts to survive a motion for summary judgment. Discussion questions. Read Severi v. Commonwealth. What other issues did the court address in its opinion? What is the standard for a motion for summary judgment, and how do you overcome such a motion? What U.S. Supreme Court was cited in the case, and what were its supporting facts that led to its finding of stereotyped gender discrimination? 3-16. Working with systems. Some paralegal employment problems are attributed to the fact that the firm has not carefully examined how paralegals can be effectively used in the office. Although paralegals are part of an attorney-paralegal administrative assistant team, the office may not have done the necessary planning to design the system that the team will execute. A system is simply an organized way of accomplishing a task. All participants are supposed to perform those functions that they are capable of handling and for which they are not overtrained. Here is how many systems are created. Select the task that is to be systemized. It will usually be a task that the office performs regularly, such as incorporating a business, probating an estate, filing the divorce, or engaging in discovery. According to some studies, attorneys perform over 75% of their tasks more than once. Carefully Study the task to identify its various components. What are the pieces that must always be performed? What facts must always be obtained? What letters must always be sent? What forms must always be drafted? Prepare a systems or procedural manual containing a description of the task, introductions or checklists of things to be done, standardized letters, pleadings, forms, and other documents that are customarily used for that task. The manual can be placed in a 3-ring notebook and or created electronically on a computer, laptop, or tablet. Scan or photocopy statutes, court rules, or other laws frequently used to perform the task and place them in a special section of the manual, often in the appendix. Delegate the performance of the components of the task to various members of the team. It takes considerable sophistication to design a system. Even more sophistication is sometimes needed to implement the system and make it work. The participants must believe in the system and ideally have had a role in its design if it requires changes in their work habits. Many attorneys are notoriously resistant to change, particularly if they believe that the system fails to recognize the role of professional judgment. If you have been doing something the same way for 15 years, you tend to be suspicious of suggestions that more efficient ways are possible. Furthermore, in the transition from blueprint to operation, the system may have to be modified to work out the bugs. In short, a precondition for success is a willingness and a determination on the part of the participants to make the new system work. Unfortunately, this willingness and determination do not always exist. When paralegals walk into an office for the first time, they may find a highly structured office with clearly articulated systems being implemented with precision and skill. On the other hand, they may find a different set of circumstances. There are few or no systems. Most attorneys practice law in their individualistic ways. There is talk of systemization, but no one has yet done any serious design work. An ineffective system is in place. A system is in place, but the participants do not believe in it. A system exists on paper, but no one has spent the time and energy to make the system work. All these environments can make life difficult for the paralegal. A disorganized office can be frustrating. As you gain experience on the job, don't be reluctant to try to design your own system. Begin modestly with a system for a portion of one of your tasks that you perform multiple times. Start out on a small scale by writing instructions or checklists for functions that you regularly perform. Write the system so that a new paralegal would be able to read it and know what to do. Here is an example of how a project led to the creation of a system. Deidre Wilton's organizational skills were really put to the test during a recent assignment which required her to file fictitious business name statements for a client in all counties in California. Almost every county had a different form. Lamented Deidre and I had to arrange for publication in 58 different newspapers. She is creating an extensive file on the project so that when the filings come up for renewal, the next person won't have to start from scratch. Supervisors will be very impressed by such efforts to create systems. A paralegal with this much initiative will soon become a prized member of the office. Analyze this. Prepare a system for the intake of a discovery document, such as interrogatories, questions to one of the parties, a complaint, an appellate brief, or the filing of articles of incorporation in your state. Detail what should happen once the document is received to its final dissemination, such as to the client, the court, opposing counsel, agency, or anyone involved in the matter. Real-world perspectives, on-the-job observations. Being successful in the legal environment encompasses many different characteristics, from being assertive to being a team player. No one characteristic is more important than the other. It is how you navigate the legal environment that will contribute to and bring about success as a paralegal, as noted in one of the paralegal observations here. Another important trait of dealing with clients in a work environment is listening. As the paralegal noted here, listening played an important role in assisting in a client's success in a divorce case. Because of the paralegal's empathy and listening skills, the client placed her trust in the paralegal, which had far-reaching effects in the case. Karen Dunn draws considerable satisfaction from a divorce case where the client was a woman in her 60s whose husband had left her, a situation that created predictable distress, notably during the discussion of financial issues. She was able to tell me things she couldn't tell the attorney. I found out she had a thyroid condition, so she was able to get more money in the end. I worked with her on the financial affidavit and drafted temporary orders to provide child support and spousal maintenance until the decree was entered. Edwards, the general practice paralegal, 8, legal assistant today, 49. As the only paralegal in one attorney family law practice, my job responsibilities are numerous. I work for an attorney who believes her paralegal should handle nearly all the legal functions she does, with the exception of appearing in court on behalf of clients, taking depositions, and giving legal advice. My skills are used to the maximum as I gather and organize all case information, allowing the attorney to prepare for court and be more cost-effective. I am the liaison person between clients and the attorney. I am able to deal with the human, emotional aspects of our clients and not just the technical aspects of the law. As each person is different, so is every case, which makes this job a continuing challenge. Lenihan, role of the family law paralegal, 10, Paragraph 6, Oregon Paralegal Association. Chapter Review 3-17A. Chapter Summary. The Ideal, How to Find the Best Job Satisfaction. Look for employment where you will have job satisfaction. Seek a place that balances work and personal life, presents challenges, and values your contributions. Attempt to find employment that takes into account the 40 factors that will affect job satisfaction. Communication. Don't think it, communicate it. It is important to communicate with your superiors as well as support staff. Avoid miscommunications by repeating instructions, writing confirmatory emails, and keeping a WIP, work in progress, journal. The multi-generational office in most law firm settings or legal office settings, you will encounter multi-generational individuals. You will usually encounter individuals who are considered traditionalists. Baby boomers are those who are bridging some more traditional concepts with newer technological advancements, along with other generations, such as generations X, Y, and Z. Encountering people from different age ranges, different generational focuses, and different skill sets should be seen as a means to embrace the differences and learn from each generation. Managing expectations of the job. No job is perfect, so managing your expectations of the job is important. Always be prepared and expect the unexpected. Keep a realistic perspective about the job and those with whom you work. The environment of a law office. The law office environment can be formal, but is always changing. People come and go. New cases and new clients emerge. Be prepared for change and that your environment is not static. Managing and minimizing office politics. Office politics is a reality in the legal profession and in most any job environment. Office politics is a reality in the legal profession and in almost any job environment. Issues will arise, but it is how you manage and react to it is what is important. Learn how minimize office politics by learn how minimize office politics by staying away from gossip. Learn how to minimize office politics by staying away from gossip. Building relationships with staff, attorneys, and supervisors, and exhibiting behavior that shows your professionalism and integrity. Self-assessment and employer evaluations. A performance review is an analysis of the extent to which a person or program has met designated objectives. Such reviews are essential to the goal of competence. To prepare for a performance review, write a pre-evaluation memo listing the cases worked on, functions performed on these cases, names of supervisors and coworkers on the cases, special accomplishments, and realization data. Working with attorneys. In the law firm setting, you will work with all levels of attorneys, from a recent graduate to a senior partner. You will most likely have the closest association with your supervisor. Learn the personalities of the attorneys with whom you work to be effective as a paralegal. Assertive, non-assertive, and aggressive behavior. You will encounter different types of individuals in a law firm or business setting. They are generally categorized as non-assertive, assertive, and aggressive. As a paralegal, you will strive toward being assertive, yet professional in your approach and demeanor. You articulate your strategies and understand how to approach issues with a sensitivity toward knowing when the time is right to discuss those issues. The skill of listening. There are different types of listening skills and different types of listeners. They are passive, appreciative, evaluative, judgmental, empathetic, me too, and active. Most try to strive toward active listening. To cultivate active listening, do not multitask while someone is talking. Look at the speaker, avoid distracting body language, ask clarifying questions, add reassuring nods or comments, or occasionally repeat back or paraphrase what the speaker has said, to name a few. Keeping a diary or journal and a career development file. Keep an ongoing work in progress, WIP, report, and a personal job diary or journal in which you record job-related details. Your career development file should contain resumes, job history, work accomplishments, professional activities, and career client list. Paralegal CLE. Continuing legal education CLE is training in the law, usually short-term, that a person receives after completing their formal legal training or after becoming employed. It is obtained in a brick-and-mortar building or online. Responsibilities of supervisors. Paralegals work with both staff supervisors and attorney supervisors. Some characteristics of a good supervisor are: knows how to balance assignments and due dates, designs appropriate systems, keeps the paralegal informed, and supports the paralegal professionally. Relationship with legal secretaries and administrative assistants. An important relationship to cultivate is with legal secretaries and administrative assistants. As their positions have evolved over time, their titles have changed. Many are now called administrative assistants, executive assistants, or program assistants. The legal secretary is going through transitions. However, they are a vital part of the legal team. You should develop a good working relationship with the legal secretaries and administrative assistant in your job. Sexual harassment in the workplace. Sexual harassment is unwanted and offensive sexual advances, contact, comments, or other interaction on the job. It generally falls into two categories: quid pro quo sexual harassment and hostile work sexual harassment. Employers have an affirmative obligation to take specific steps to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. If experiencing acts of sexual harassment, report it to a human resources department, EEOC, or law enforcement. Working with systems. An office system is an organized way of accomplishing a task in which the participants perform functions that they are capable of handling and for which they are not overtrained. Most offices have some systems protocols, but are often written. As a paralegal, take the initiative to create office systems when none exists. It will show your initiative and commitment to your job and the office. Chapter Review 3-17B Key Terms. Work in progress, due diligence, office politics, performance reviews, case method, adverse, clinical education, flex time, attentive listening, sexual harassment, quid pro quo sexual harassment, hostile environment sexual harassment, contemporaneous, equal employment opportunity commission EEOC. Work in progress, WIP, a list of tasks on which one is currently working and the dates they are due. Due diligence, responsible efforts to find and verify factual information needed to carry out an obligation, to avoid harming someone, or to make an important decision. Office politics, the interaction of coworkers when they do not always have the same goals, powers, opinions, expectations, abilities, or timetables for performing the work of the office. Performance reviews, an analysis of the extent to which a person or program has met designated objectives, also called performance appraisal. Case method, learning law primarily by studying appellate court opinions in which the opinions are briefed, broken down into their issue, reasoning, and other essential parts, synthesized, read together with other opinions in order to identify rule patterns, and applied to new facts presented by the professor. Adverse, opposed to, harmful, unfavorable. Clinical education, a training program in which students work on real cases under professional supervision. Flex time, a system that allows employees some control over aspects of their work schedule, such as the times that they arrive at and leave from work during the day. Attentive listening, affirmative ongoing steps taken by an interviewer to let an interviewee know that you have heard what they just said and that you consider the meeting with them to be important. Sexual harassment, unwanted and offensive sexual advances, contact, comments, or other interaction. Quid pro quo sexual harassment, submission to or rejection of unwelcome sexual conduct used as a basis for employment decisions on promotion or other job-related benefits. Hostile environment sexual harassment, pervasive unwelcome sexual conduct or sex-based ridicule that unreasonably interferes with an individual's job performance or that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment, even if no tangible or economic consequences result. Sexual harassment. Contemporaneous, existing or occurring in the same period of time, pertaining to records that are prepared regarding events as the events are occurring or very shortly after. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, the federal agency that investigates employment discrimination that might violate federal law, www.eeoc.gov. Chapter Review 3-17C. Review questions. 1. What are some of the major factors that affect job satisfaction? 2. What steps should you take to avoid miscommunication in a busy law office? What is the work in progress, WIP? What is meant by a multi-generational office? Name 5 generations that can exist or that will soon exist in many law offices. 5. What is meant by office politics, and what are ways to minimize and manage them? What is the 3-part strategy for dealing with office politics? 6. What are performance reviews and why are they essential? How should you prepare for a performance review? 7. What are some differences among assertive, non-assertive, and aggressive people? 8. What are some assertive strategies that can be used in a law office environment? 9. What are some of the techniques of an active listener? 10. What information should be kept in a diary or journal? What should be kept in a career development file? 11. What are the 2 main ways to obtain CLE? 12. What are some of the major factors of effective paralegal supervision? 13. What are some of the changes that have occurred in job duties between paralegals and legal secretaries? 14. What are the definitions of the 2 kinds of sexual harassment that violate the law? What are the obligations of an employer to prevent sexual harassment? 15. What are law office systems and why are they sometimes a challenge to implement? Chapter Review 3-17D. Assignments. Critical Analysis. 3.1. Examine the following fact situations for each situation. Identify the problem that you see. What strategies do you think would be helpful in resolving the problems and why? What strategies do you think would be counterproductive and why? What do you think could have been done to prevent the problem or problems from occurring in the first place? And how could they have been avoided? In your responses, specify what you think would be assertive, non-assertive, and aggressive behavior. A. Tom has been a paralegal at a firm for 3 years. His paralegal training in school was in drafting, legal research, investigation, and etc. For the entire 3 years, however, he has been collating and digesting numerous documents in a big antitrust case. It is a very important case, and the firm is reluctant to take him off of it due to his familiarity with these documents. The problem, however, is that Tom is becoming bored. He is satisfied with his pay, but dreads coming to work each day. He tried to explain this to his supervisor, but he was simply told how important he was to the case. The supervisor said, "If you decide to leave the firm, I hope you will give us 6 months lead time so that you can train a replacement." This made Tom all the more frustrated because he does not want to leave. B. Ellen is a probate paralegal at a firm. She has worked there 2 years. At a recent paralegal association meeting, she discovered that other probate paralegals in the city with the same experience are making at least $4,000 more per year than she is. She wants to talk with her supervisor, Adina Hodge, about this, but is not sure if this is the right time. The last 3 months have been difficult for her. She has missed work a lot due to illness. She also recently began work on a new complex case. She is struggling to keep up with the new work involved in the case and must constantly ask her supervisor for help. The supervisor appears to be irritated with her progress on the case. Her next scheduled salary review is 10 months away. C. Fran is a paralegal in a firm where she works for the senior partner, the most powerful person in the firm. Fran receives excellent pay and fringe benefits. She loves her work, Other paralegals in the firm, however, resent her because their benefits are much lower and they receive less desirable assignments. D. Same situation as in C, Fran's supervisor. The senior partner is currently going through a divorce, and the strain on him has been enormous. One consequence of this is that Fran's workload is increasing. More of his work is being shifted to her. He is extremely sensitive to any criticism about the way he practices law, so Fran is reluctant to talk with him about the extra work, particularly when he is under so much pressure due to the divorce. Yet Fran is worried about her ability to do her job competently in view of the increased work. She hopes that things will get back to normal when the divorce is over. E. Jesse has been a paralegal at the firm for 6 years. He works for 3 attorneys. One day he is told via a memo from the office administrator that an outside consultant has been hired to study Jesse's job in order to find ways to increase productivity. The letter instructs Jesse to spend the next 2 days permitting the consultant to follow him around and ask questions about what he does. Jesse feels insulted. F. Mary has been a paralegal at the firm for 2 years. She works for one attorney, Mr. Getty. One day, a client calls Mary and says, "I'm sending you another copy of the form that Mr. Getty said you lost." This is news to Mary. She works with the client's file every day and knows that she has never lost anything. She pauses, trying to think of what to say to this client over the phone before hanging up. G. Veronica works for a law firm where none of the supervisors gives formal evaluations of the paralegals. The supervisors feel that formal evaluations would be too time-consuming and too general to be helpful. They are also afraid that they might be sued for making negative comments about employees. Veronica has received yearly raises, and according to her supervisor, this is the best indication of what the firm thinks of her. Veronica is unhappy, however, with the feedback she has gotten about her work. Projects 3.2. Open a LinkedIn account and post basic data about yourself as a new paralegal student. See Chapter 2. In LinkedIn, do a research for paralegal student. Read the profiles of current students to obtain ideas for your own profile. Chapter Review 3-17E. Core Skills Assignment. Core Skill. Writing. 3.3. Prepare a journal entry based on the facts in 3.1a. Above, Tom, the experienced paralegal who wants to advance in his position. Outline how to approach management for more challenging work assignments. Draft the email to the supervisor that would be sent. Core Skill Research 3.4. Perform a search on the following. A. Top methods of dealing with office politics. Write down 5 suggestions to manage and minimize office politics. B. Ways to deal with an aggressive supervisor. Identify 3 approaches from your search. C. Methods of creating a system for intaking of office mail. Prepare an intake system based on your research. Core Skill Ethics 3.5. George is a paralegal at the office of Kiley and Kiley. His supervisor is Phyllis Kiley, one of the senior partners at the firm. Phyllis knows that George is recently divorced. She often asks him about his dating life. Several times, she asked him to accompany her to downtown evening receptions that had nothing to do with the law office or his job. This attention from Phyllis is making George uncomfortable. He is reluctant to say anything because she has a reputation of firing anyone who questions her in any way. Paralegal jobs in the area are scarce, and it took George a while to obtain this one. What should George do? What are the reporting mechanisms that George can use to report suspected acts of sexual harassment? Is Phyllis's behavior ethical? Explain your response. Core skill, computers, 3.6 in Chapter 1. You started a computer terminology in the Law CTL notebook. A. Find legal programs online that assist paralegals in doing self-assessments in preparation for an interview. B. Find videos that provide guidance on preparing for an employer evaluation and review them. What are the top 5 skills that are identified for a successful evaluation by your employer? Core skill, collaboration. 3.7. A. Select what you believe are the 10 most important factors in Exhibit 3-1 for potential job satisfaction. Write out your list and make a copy or email your list. Indicate whether you have ever had any law office work experience as a secretary, a paralegal, etc. B. Give your list to a person in the class whom your instructor will designate as the statistician. The latter will collect all the lists from the students and make the following tabulations. I. Which factors received the most votes on the top 10 list by the students who have had prior law office experience? And II. Which received the most votes from the other students? C. In class, discuss the results of these tabulations. Are there significant differences in the opinions of the two groups? Can you explain the differences or similarities? The job search. 3.8. A. Perform a search using the following search terms: paralegal job, entry level. Find 2 different websites that discuss techniques for finding an entry level job, one requiring no legal experience. B. Enter the information they provide on finding an entry level job. Place the information in your job search notebook. Chapter Review 3-17F. Portfolio Binder Assignment. Prepare a letter to your supervisor detailing why you are valued employee. Prepare a letter to your supervisor detailing why you are a valued employee and are entitled to a raise. Use the information from the chapter in preparing a comprehensive letter. For the assignment, assume you are a paralegal working in a boutique law firm that specializes in medical malpractice. You have been working for the firm for 10 years and have not had a raise for 2 years. The firm just received a $5 million settlement on a case that you worked on for 4 years. You received nothing from the settlement but a thank you. Be creative and add whatever facts would be helpful in gaining that increase in salary. Place the letter in your portfolio binder. Work in progress. A list of tasks on which one is currently working and the dates they are due. Due diligence. Reasonable efforts to find and verify factual information needed to carry out an obligation, to avoid harming someone, or to make an important decision. Office politics. The interaction of coworkers when they do not always have the same goals, powers, opinions, expectations, abilities, or timetables for performing the work of the office. Performance reviews. An analysis of the extent to which a person or program has met designated objectives, also called performance appraisals. Case method. Learning law primarily by studying appellate court opinions in which the opinions are briefed, broken down into their issue, reasoning, and other essential parts synthesized, read together with other opinions in order to identify rule patterns and applied to new facts presented by the professor. Adverse. Opposed to, harmful, unfavorable. Clinical education. Training program in which students work on real cases under professional supervision. Flex time. A system that allows employees some control over aspects of their work schedule, such as the times that they arrive and leave from work during the day. Attentive listening. Affirmative, ongoing steps taken by an interviewer to let an interviewee know that you have heard what they just said and that you consider the meeting with them to be important. Sexual harassment. Unwanted and offensive sexual advances, contact, comments, or other interaction. Quid pro quo sexual harassment. Submission to or rejection of unwelcome sexual conduct used as a basis for employment decisions on promotion or other job-related benefits. Hostile environment sexual harassment. Pervasive unwelcome sexual conduct or sex-based ridicule that unreasonably interferes with an individual's job, performance, or that creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment, even if no tangible or economic consequences result. Contemporaneous. Existing or occurring in the same period of time, pertaining to records that are prepared regarding events and the events are occurring or very shortly after. Existing or occurring in the same period of time pertaining to records that are prepared regarding events as the events are occurring or very shortly after. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. The federal agency that investigates employment discrimination that might violate federal law, www.eeoc.gov.